That belief comes from 100 and 200 years, and the belief is much older than any science or evidence that we have. When we have taken those beliefs and tested them in proper scientific experiments, it shows clearly that they do not do any good and possibly even harm. So many of our practices are actually historical without benefit. Quite apart then from this new science that I am bringing as a based on skin-to-skin contact. And separation is its opposite. So when we take the baby away to do very many things, partly those things are harmful, but it's a separation as well in itself that is causing stress. So we can do those things after some hours, but at birth the baby should be uninterruptedly in skin-to-skin contact. And then it calms and regulates, and its physiology and its bonding can begin. So yes, there is some harm in our old methods, but we're costing purely with separation. And so the key message of my neuroscience is zero separation. Skin-to-skin contact is primate biology. If we look at monkeys and apes and primates, skin-to-skin contact, the word kangaroo mother care is an even older form of skin-to-skin contact that the marsupial animal has. So this close contact with skin is essentially continuing the gestation. So we have molecular biology and epigenetics and genes, and then we have brains. But to understand that, we also have life sciences theory that makes sense of all of this. And in the life sciences theory, the human brain is born very small, a quarter of its size, and it has to be born then because otherwise it can't get out. And therefore it's not finished its gestation. And so in that sense, skin to skin is a way of continuing gestation. And in the first weeks, days and weeks, skin to skin contact is really just continuing gestation. But then skin to skin has specific effects in the first days, and it's about connecting the emotional social brain. Once the emotional brain is connected securely to the social wants to see your eyes. And then the baby should be carried. It doesn't need skin to skin anymore, it needs eye to eye. A mother may be very ill, a mother may be bleeding to death, and so there are some maternal situations where you are prioritizing life of the mother. The same applies to an infant. It might be born with a defect, it might be born very ill, and so those are what we call pathological conditions. They need to be treated as their pathology. And it may require that, in order to do that, there is some separation. So perhaps highest on such a list would be the resuscitation of a baby that's born. But even first steps of resuscitation can be done in skin-to-skin contact. But what we then say is that whatever needs to be done, we can take the baby away and we do the resuscitation, and when it's settled, we bring it back to the parent. A baby that's very ill needs the care for that very ill. It also needs skin-to-skin contact. And there are many things that nowadays we're doing in skin-to-skin contact. Even intubation we can do in skin-to-skin contact with experience and confidence and competence. But a short period of separation for doing a procedure is not a problem in itself. It's the prolonged separation and then also the early separation. The preterm infant will then be in skin to skin until its term, but actually it often develops a little bit faster, so it might tell the mother that I've had enough. So I'm often asked, how long should the baby be in skin to skin? And the answer is, until the baby tells you. The baby that is in skin to skin is well able to communicate, I've now had enough of this. There is no set figure. The answer is that first the baby's emotional and social brain connection is done, and when it's ready, then it's eye to eye and skin to skin is finished. Stress has short-term and long-term impacts on brain development. The earliest impact is that the baby is born very stressed, purely by being in the vaginal canal. And that stress is positive, it's good. It wakes the brain up, it wakes the lungs up, it activates the whole body, but it needs to come down. If it doesn't come down, then changes are taking place that are the beginning of harm. And the harm is that the baby's stress systems are learning that this is a bad world into which I have been born. And therefore I must be constantly ready for danger. And therefore I decrease the number of receptors for cortisol in my brain so that cortisol is always in my system and I'm always ready for danger. Instead of feeling safe and being able to trust. And for that I need more receptors that take cortisol away. What then happens is that I can cope with stressful events much better because I have high cortisol, but I can bring it back to normal, and so I have good health as well. This is called resilience. The capacity we have to have a high stressful event and bring ourselves back to normal. So that is a short-term change in the brain development, but it has long-term consequences because the brain remembers those settings. It's called predictive adaptive response. So what I learned when I was born is how I stay for my life. And so I will always behave in this there's a danger present somewhere kind of way of thinking, because that was how I was born. Breast milk is very specific for making myelin that makes the brains faster and more intelligent. But what is it that is being made faster and more intelligent? It's circuits. Those circuits are made not by milk or by breast, but by all the maternal sensations. And you get sensations when you breastfeed. You are getting taste and smell and touch and contact and warmth and balance, and every sensation is firing brain circuits. Now the milk is making those circuits faster. So it's breastfeeding as such, which is making firing and wiring in the brain and integrating many different circuits so that we get a total kind of, we call it IQ, but it's not IQ, it's emotional and social, and many kinds of intelligence is about how the brain is wired together. So the breastfeeding is an ongoing 2-year process of connecting every part of the brain to make a emotional, social, intelligent, and with it comes high performance across the lifespan, including, a new study showed us, babies that breastfed for 12 months, up to 12 months, were earning 50% more than babies that only breastfed for 1 month when they are 30 years old. So it makes a permanent difference over life. I think that many practices that we have in our hospitals are just old and bad habits. Then it can be very difficult for the system to change. Health workers are part of a system. The building may be made in such a way that mothers and babies should not be together. Then that is used as a reason not to put them together. So I do believe that this message we now have about understanding toxic stress and the long-term damage it does to the brain is an imperative for making change of care. And this call for making change is gaining traction, gaining volume all over the world. I would think that places that are isolated and not really in touch with the rest of the world might become the last to change, but they must change. I first saw this in 1988, which was 28 years ago. And it was partly accidental and circumstantial. I was working in Africa in a mission hospital without incubators. I had been trained in their use and I knew how to ventilate and do everything, but I did not have that equipment. And so I put the babies immediately at birth in skin to skin. And these babies did not behave the textbook way. They behaved much, much better, very, very differently. So in the beginning, it was an observation based on a pragmatic solution of shortage, lack of resources. What I have worked on is to take away this image of kangaroo mother care and create a science-based, proper biological rationale. A reason for saying this is best practice, this is science, this now needs to become evidence-based. The good news that I have is that after these 20 years, we finally have research funding from the Gates Foundation, and which will be working with the World Health Organization, and we're going to test 4,000 babies to see that it does indeed save life, starting immediately at birth. But we also have the opportunity to study the mechanisms, how this happens. So it's not a third world solution. The first world must do this, teach it to the third world. And so I think our most advanced country when it comes to preterm care and this kind of science in practice would be Sweden. So Sweden is part of our research project, and we will film the Swedish method and we will do it in African low-income countries, so that it's not a third world solution, it's for every baby in the world. And yesterday was, day before I think, was World Prematurity Day, and the theme for the World Prematurity Day a year ago was No Life Too Small.